Want to play?
Heidi, I should go come sit next to you.
Let me do this. I got to turn on the microphone. All right. Hear ye, hear ye. Welcome everybody in TV land. We've got the Thursday, October 9th, 5 p.m. Art Commission meeting. Just want to say hi to everybody out there. I also want to say hi to the Seroptimists, if they're out there, if anybody's watching. We'll see you guys next week, and also on to Main Street. We'll see you guys. We'll come in November. So we're just saying hi to you peoples. All right. Roll call. Carla Friend.
Here.
J.R. Russell, me here, the chair. Robert Sanders, not here, but he might be on his way. Valerie Steely.
Here.
Cynthia Mason, vice chair.
Here.
Tracy Davidson.
Here.
Therese Kingsbury.
Here.
Reese, our designated student.
Here.
Councilman Chris Wigenstein, not here. All right. So we'll move on to item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Now, one thing I would like to note on the agenda, and Brian, because the first thing we have on there are art project proposals review. And I don't know if we're talking about each one of them individually as a project, or the fact that they came in and this is technically the first time that we've seen them.
Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit of an organic process, right? So these are the first proposals that have been submitted as far as this process. Now, as the art plan procedures dictated, we would review these proposals annually at the Art Commission retreat and talk about inclusion. And I've handed each of you
Right.
that Appendix 2 section on project selection and implementation worksheets. Then in that, you have a project selection matrix as well as your annual action plan, right? So we would review these with this candidate project worksheet, which you would use to grade from that criteria each of the proposals, and then you would add those to your annual action plan. The project implementation worksheet, which is the last page of that, gives a little more detail on the logistics of how those would be carried out.
I
What we
personally
had-
think today, for purposes of this meeting, on the agenda, the fact that this is the first time that technically we have seen these, and they should be part of the process, and we aren't going to open this up to start, like, we have some information on the Lion's Head for cost, and also, we can, discuss it and vote, and I say that we don't do that in this, and we have to let it, the process, and enter in all the information.
Yeah, let's stick to getting there.
Right, I'm talking about the agenda. So when we get to the agenda, and it says review, we're not reviewing these to approve or we're just saying, okay, they're in, how are we gonna fit them into the process?
Right, yes, so we've received these, since it's kind of our first pilot of this, we'll review these together, and then we'll have a discussion on process, and you've had a lot of discussion on annual versus as they
Okay,
come in.
like I said, I just wanted to make that clear when we get to that item on the agenda. So we're talking about changes to the event agenda, that's the intent of that on the agenda. Now, that being said, does anybody else have any comments on the agenda? If you're happy with it, we can move on.
Go ahead. I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
A second? Okay, all in favor? Hey. Okay, onward. Approval of the minutes from last month, the 11th of September.
They're always so perfect. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented from September 11th, 2025 meeting.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Onward. Public comment. Do we have anything for public comment? Okay. So we move right to item 5, we're discussion and action, presentation, and report items. The very first one we have is art project proposal review. Now, for people here and anybody that's watching, part of the art plan was that people could submit online proposals for projects or ideas, and we went live, we voted last month to go live with the website and having the online form. So we've got 2 forms that are submitted. These are, right now, the 2 projects that we have that are in the system. We should be populating these with some of the other ideas that we talked about, but, so like Bruiser, anything else doesn't exist right. It exists in our head, but it doesn't exist in the process until we enter that data in. So we have 2 of them in, the first one being, yes.
If the forms are live, didn't we already discuss just reaching back out to these people and having them resubmit it now that the form has a full capacity of everything that we're looking for versus a brief description?
Yes. Now, that being said, we have 2 proposals. Go, yes.
Correct. So the one that we have sent the link to was Jasmine Flowers, and just today I did send her the information for the link for the Bruiser, the elk sculpture, and invited her to complete that form if it was something that she was still looking for assistance and partnership from the Arts Commission with. So if there is anyone else that you would like that sent to, let me know. That was the only one that was indicated was needing the link to be sent to them.
I thought we
Yep.
had given a list of everybody.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so then the others were Utility Box, J.R. Russell, Arts in the Parks, Robert, but it sounds like that's not something he's ready to move forward or do yet. And then the Lion's Head Woodby Playhouse submitted theirs.
We also had one presentation from Sherry McLean, and that was regarding the leftover oak wood. There wasn't a budget ask of it. It's not being placed on public property, so I don't know that it would necessarily need to go through this process.
There is an opportunity for somebody to submit for other reasons other than money. So yes, they can, if they're looking for advice or guidance or something.
I would agree with that because maybe they don't know how. And even if it gets into the system somehow, it'll be under there like, hey, somebody came up with a great idea. Unfortunately, all it is a great idea right now, and we aren't in a position to take it out. Or we can say, hey, we need more information, or here's where you might be able to go. Yeah.
The only other one on the list that we mentioned last month was the Phil-Am project, and that contact was Maria McGee.
Okay, because I do have Phil Am statue,
Okay.
but that's it.
Okay, so-
Maria.
Yep,
And
I'll-
then just send her the link and
Yep.
if she wants to do something, she'll.
Yep.
Okay,
And
sounds
I did reach out to them. I told her that it's live.
Yeah.
So you guys can submit. And that's another one where somebody is like, we kind of know we'd like to do this, but we don't know what to do and how to do it. So that moves into what Tracy said. They probably have the funds to do it, but they don't have the knowledge of how to do it.
They do have the funds.
Yes.
And then there's the Island Transit Art Poetry on the Bus was on the list, but I didn't have any, does anyone have a contact that's specifically that's supposed to go to?
Carla and I kind of bounced some opened ideas that have been discussed over the last 3 years here. And so there'll be more and we'll take on that
Okay,
too
so I
as a
don't need to
submission.
send a link to anyone at
No.
this type of that. Okay,
No,
thank you.
thank you.
Brandon also talked with Stefania Hurta on the skate park bench project, and she will be submitting a form for that as well.
Yes, I sent the form out to her as well.
Go.
I have a question regarding submission ideas. So for example, we've talked a few times over again on items like an updated art walk map, QR codes in our park, constant things on the website. Are those just administratively things that should be being worked on all of the time without a submission from us? Because the QR code and the art walk map kind of was still on my list. I do participate in conversation about the welcome signs on the cab board, so I didn't put that in the list. So those type of growth projects, if you would, for the arts in town.
While those are target-run projects, I think going through this process, especially for anything that makes use of the art funds or would be consideration for this board to have discussion on, would benefit from going through this process. Allow
Okay.
you to set your priorities, especially during the. I'm sorry. There, now it's on. I'll repeat since the mic wasn't on. Even though those are department-run internal projects, I think they would benefit going through this process. So that allows the art commission to review it, have discussion, especially anything that would make use of the art funds. I think should go through this process, and also these procedures are very helpful for you prioritizing what projects we'll do throughout the year. Right, lots of needs, obviously, but there's only so much bandwidth between staff. Allows us to look at what would be useful to contract out, what do we want handled this year or next year, what would we want to include in the next biennial budget.
So follow up to that then, Brian, as I participated in the LTAC meeting this morning, and the city has a few applications for the use of LTAC dollars presented by city staff. So would those internal projects be entered by staff, or should we work together to, I guess in the process that I'm envisioning, if it's entered in by staff and it's selected to be embraced and worked through, then a commissioner would be assigned to that project. Or you could do it the other way. A commissioner says, I really want to see the art walk map happen, and we go from there. So who would be entering? Do I keep it on my list to enter in? Or will it be?
That's a good question. I was thinking about just a different off subject, like the Acorn. They were talking about building a shelter for that. I was like, is that something we should submit to protect the statue? Or, yeah, but I mean, it needs to be submitted so we can, split the funds for it if it's available.
And right now, we're talking about all these projects that kind of existed on a whiteboard, but weren't formal. Right, we have two projects that are formal. There they are. There's the one in the systems. Now, last month, we talked about, Tracy said, we need to meet to fill out the rest of this, to start entering them in here. My question then would be, do we take this as another strategic meeting where we sit down and we start entering, in we could enter the projects that we know that are on our head and put them into the system and then start filling out here, because the question would be, who's filling this out? Who's entering this data? My other question would be, there's two that are in the system right now. How do we get to view them? How do we find them? And how do I find any of this information where does it exist in the Ethernet, so I can look at what's going on? And do we need to have either a strategic meeting to talk about the process again, or another one to say, let's sit down and start entering these projects and putting them in the system? Thoughts?
Well, first, I think you're right. I think where does this live? Where does the forms live? Where do the submissions live? I think that's probably something we'll need to start talking about so that the commissioners have immediate access to whatever comes over. We are going to be filling out these forms, but right now they just live on paper. So I think it would be maybe more convenient to have them electronic in some way.
In the art plan itself, didn't they have something separate for us versus the public?
Yeah, that's what these are.
But I'm saying, like, isn't there something for just us?
This is it.
But
Yes.
So this is our plan, and then the public submits this, but isn't there a public versus the art board plan? Does that not make sense?
Oh, are you talking about a public proposal or a commissioner proposal?
Yeah.
No, we don't have any distinction between those two right now.
Anybody can go on right now and make a submission.
I just don't want it to seem like all of the art commissioners are the only ones that are submitting proposals, so when we come to the meeting next month, it's like 8 of us have submitted things, and there's 2 from the public, and it seems unbiased.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. No one knows this exists. That is why we went to the chamber. That is why we're going to talk to Seroptimus. That's why we're going to go to the Main Street to tell them that people can put ideas in. Now, the idea for the Lion's Head, that came from the Playhouse.
So maybe we wait to submit some of our proposals until we get a significant amount from the public. That,
We-
did-
They've already been, the people came for Bruiser, somebody came in and talked about that already.
Yes.
So we'll wait for that one to come back in. There are some other ideas that are out there that we wrote on the board that we wanted to do. So let's put them in the system and let them be in the process. And now if somebody else is out there, if you're out there in TV land and you have a great idea for art, not necessarily paintings, sculptures, it could be performing arts, it could be anything, go ahead, go to the website, hit enter, and there it is, it's in there.
JR?
Yeah.
Val, I think you're hitting on a really good point, and it could be that it's just going to take a while for us to get some traction. It could be upside down for a while, where it's the majority of the ideas are coming from those of us here at the commissioners. So anytime you start something brand new, it takes a while for the message to get out, and then it takes a while for people to say, oh yeah, I could, this idea would be really great. So it could just be kind of upside down for a while.
And that makes sense. It's like we're painting the Here's Fred sign. That makes sense.
One other thing that it would be in the subcommittee report, but Tracy and I met with Carrie Stuckey because we were talking about the website and the fact that when you hit Oak Harbor Art Plan, you did not land on our page nor on the art plan. And she went in and fixed that. So if you hit Oak Harbor Art Plan right now, it takes you right to the page, and there's a link if you have an idea. The other idea that we were talking about that needs to be flushed out was to leave it in there was some sort of outreach or not newsletter. We didn't have the word for it, for exactly what you said, like, okay, here's some ideas that exist. Here's what we did, and let people know that there are some cool things going on, join in on the fun. we have never, we haven't had that. So now that's an opportunity where people can see that there is momentum and the wave is started, jump on.
Thank you.
So we still haven't got, like, when are we going to meet? To me, to start populating, or at least, because we haven't done we haven't put a date down for our next strategic meeting where, okay, meet semi-annually. We talked about meeting in the fall and meeting in the spring. Is it time for us to meet in the next couple of weeks? Open for suggestions.
I agree with that, and I'm also remembering that we didn't want to create a subcommittee to review each of the submissions, that it would be up to us as homework to use this scoring sheet and then come to the table to discuss them twice a year. But for those that aren't needing funding, are we still going to keep that calendar? Like, if someone needs help with putting out a call to artists, is that an action that's going to be tabled for one of those two meetings, or is it something that we can work on right away?
Tracy, good question.
That is a really good question. I think we're going to have a lot of those nuanced type questions to define all of this. I don't know why we would have to make those folks wait. If they need call for artists, let's go and get that going. I don't see why we have to wait and then have a high volume of work all of a sudden for us because we hit go on all of them at the same time.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to go on here. So there's going to be a few different categories, right, Brian? We're going to be a point of reference or guidance to community for staff answering questions, and we have websites to show from the state and the Fed and all that kind of stuff? Or is that something that we can build within the website at some point, that if they have a question about how do I do this, kind of like how do I pay a bill, that can be enhanced on the website somehow, so it's not picking up the phone as an action to reach back out to community?
And that's an excellent solution. The webinar I was on from the Washington State Department of Commerce today that talked about their feedback on their outreach to community, and that was one of their solutions. So they're going to be building more guides and even adding videos as guides, so written and video for guides.
And to address both of those, I agree with the semi-annually, but then my question, Brian, you handed this out to us. Is it the expectation that we're filling this out?
Yes.
And that this will be digitized and we're entering all this information?
Yeah, so that's for discussion on how you'd like the process to go, but absolutely, we can create a depository, have these digitized, whether it's through like SurveyMonkey or some other platform. You can go on, do your reviews, and access those folders. Like Tracy said, it really is going to be a case-by-case basis, right? So it depends on what the project is and what the proposal is. Some of these things will have to wait annually or even biannually until you're able to do a budget, put in a budget for it. Unless you want to go to council and feel like you don't want to wait that long and it's a more immediate need. Some of these things could be a simple conversation with them, or maybe a presentation to the commission.
Is why I was thinking that we can't approve things in the subcommittee level, but if there's a subcommittee that when it hits enter and all of a sudden there it is, it would go to a subcommittee because they could meet and say, hey, we got 3 new things. You know what we can do? Let's start entering this data in. We're not making any decisions. Data's got to be entered. so that when it comes time to meet, and then that subcommittee could say, you know what, this is one of those cases, case by case, why don't we bring this to the commission?
I have a thought about the process, since it's all new. So, we have two in front of us, the Lionhead and an event at, Flintstone Park. So if we do receive, I'll use the Lion's Head because it's on the top here as an example, it was received, could this scoring document be activated for us in a SurveyMonkey format and sent out to all of us saying, this just came in, it's time for you guys to take care of the next step on this process, and then when we meet at those two meetings, that homework has been done. For those that have funding behind them, for those that don't, I mean, it's gonna be like, I'm a bill on Capitol Hill, and this is the road I'm gonna take, or I want $20,000 from the fund, and we're gonna wait till the end of the year when we're doing budgeting, but this still has to be done.
That's just one sheet.
No, it
There's-
goes on for the
It goes on and
project.
on of somebody typing.
Well, the other sheets are
entering.
really for your annual retreat
Yeah.
process, for your annual planning. This candidate project worksheet really is your grading criteria for each proposal. What we could do is add a section onto this sheet as far as what the next step is, right? This goes to our annual review for our annual action plan projects. Or we would like this on the next commission meeting for them to come and present.
I like that.
Um,
That makes sense.
Because I just don't want to show up in January with a list of a bunch of these things, proposals in there, and an empty sheet. Where we're, right there, we're all writing stuff in, and this data has not been entered in for potentially 10, 15, could be 10 projects. 10 projects, that there's no projects in any form right now in this, and no one's stepping up to type it in. Who's going to type it in? Who's going to fill it?
Well, this.
Who's
these
gonna
need
fill
to
it?
be filled in by each commissioner.
Yeah, it's
Well-
not one sheet.
No, who's
it's
who's
one
filling
from
in
each
visibility,
commissioner.
connection, year one, year three, the other one, project, scheduled milestones?
Yeah, those things will be done, just one form will be filled out for multiple projects with these other forms. The only form we're really talking about here is the candidate project worksheet. So this is done individually by each commissioner, grading each project, right? As far as like the digital forms and things like that, staff can create that and then have that depository. And then you can go in and review each project, and at your annual meeting, you can go in and pull all those and with the grading criteria. We might have to create some kind of a scoring matrix that takes each of your individual scores and summarizes those from the commissioners' evaluations. But yeah, that would be the process. There really isn't any other form data that would be needed on a case by case. The rest are for your retreat.
JR.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brian, so the piece of paper here that's just the one side that says candidate project worksheet, that is what each commissioner will be filling out for each submission.
Correct.
So back to, instead of having pieces of paper, so I guess we need to know when we would see, how we would get notified, so that we, rather than trying to do this kind of work in a regular meeting like this. When will we get notified of a proposal? And then how can we make this electronic so that everybody can do it, I don't want to say at their leisure, but in their more convenient time? And there's just, everything starts to Communal?
Communal?
No,
Accumulated.
compiled is a better word. Compiled for when our meeting is, our annual meeting or biannual meeting. And it is probably important to decide on next step categories. So if the next step category of it's going to be in our biannual meeting, then then we would fill that out and that would get put into the biannual meeting pile. If it's something that needs to be evaluated immediately, then we would fill it out and then it would go in the pile of it's going to be talked about in our next meeting. You know, that kind of thing.
Yep, yeah, so you just need to let us know how you want that process to go, and we can set that up.
I want to add something.
How often do you want to receive notifications, receive these? How would you like it sent to you? Do you want it by email, or do you just want a notification with a link and you go to a site to do that? Do you want it by paper, or do you want it digitally? And then, yeah, what criteria? You tell us what you want those to be.
And with that, then you also have to send the description of the project proposal. So it gets complicated. Just making that point. I have no answer, I'm just saying.
And we receive these by email, and it's really fairly simple for us
Okay.
to just forward that along with it can either be as an attachment, or it can be a link to like a digital survey site that would have this as a digital online form for you to fill out, that we can have in a folder that you can access. However you want to do it.
Let's maybe look in the future, couple years, 3 years down, and we have a very large repository of proposals. What would be the best way to have that organized? Would it be to be in some kind of container? I don't know what kind of containers the city has electronically.
Well, we organize our files in several different ways. It can either be done by year, which is probably the first and easiest way to do that, is by year, and then have a folder for each individual project that's been proposed during that year.
So looking, then coming forward, how do we, so that might give us some hints on how to get ourselves started today, if we can look at what would be the best thing 3-5 years down the way.
Somebody going to jump in? Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
So we have 2 projects. Why don't we talk about them? Why don't we,
But we
But-
need to get these scored.
We haven't,
but we need to talk about it before we get them scored, right? Or at least we
No.
need to read about them, or,
We do need to read about them.
I mean,
and that's where these came in, they came in right now, what happens to these things? Because on one hand, we're saying we're going to talk about these at our annual retreat, and on the other hand, we're saying on a case-by-case basis, we will discuss them as needed. So and that's where my opinion would have been, when these come in, if there was a couple of us that got to look at these, because we could all look at them. And we all have to look at them. But somebody could identify it really quickly and say, you know what? This one is a short-term one, let's try to knock this out within a month. Let's try to approve this at our next meeting and complete some of the things that are our next thing, let's go for approval, instead of coming in and roundtable talking about it.
So, we're all thinking out loud here. The candidate project worksheet is the number one form that we all have to touch. So a submission is received, staff takes a copy of that email, sends out a notice with a link to our proposal worksheet, We all get to score it. We enhance it by that ending question of next step. Table to workshop, bring to meeting. And it could be a collective vote by way of SurveyMonkey of more than half of us want to talk about it at the next meeting, so we'll bring it as an agenda item, or the majority of us see this as spending a lot of money and we'll hold it for the workshop. Then that would be, if it came back for discussion at a meeting or at the workshop, the next step would be the project implementation worksheet. Whereas we agreed we want to do this project, a commissioner with passion for it is assigned to the project, and that now is electronically available for that commissioner to work through with the community and staff. Am I on track? And then on the very end of this, at our workshops, the project selection matrix comes into play for the bigger things. What categories does it touch in helping us rank where we're going to spend our money? So the next step subjects, Tracy, very simply could be, let's do this now. Talk about it at workshop, wait till our annual budget. I mean, we're talking about 2 separate meetings biannually, correct? Do we all agree with that? I mean, I think biannually is fair for the process. So we put in our calendar before the end of the night, which 2 meetings are going to be those biannual meetings, and then add on the bottom of this number 1 form I'm calling is our candidate project worksheet, that next step, which would give us a tally of what the commissioners want to do with that project, meaning table it to the next meeting, or I'm sorry, bring it forward to the next meeting for discussion for this sheet, this implementation. And JR, these are all going to be electronic for us in some type of SurveyMonkey as example form.
That was our
correct?
request.
Yes.
That's been our request, but we haven't come
Well,
up with
Well, we're here now.
an
I mean,
actual-
we're actually here now because we have 2 submissions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me, so I didn't finish my sentence, so
sorry.
it wasn't, very understandable. Yes, I think, and it sounds like we have agreement with the team over here, but we don't have a next step on that. A next step on creating the electronic of this form or other forms.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do a SurveyMonkey, and let's try that for this and see if it works for the commission. If it works, we'll continue with that, and if not, we'll try and...
Brian, your idea on the candidate project worksheet of putting that additional line in there to say, for us to say, agenda item, next meeting, budget item, whatever it is, we want to expedite this. Somehow we get in there that, where there's an expedite on it. And that's why I go back to the original thing on the agenda today. We're not here to approve Palomar or, the statute or anything else. We're looking at the process. So that,
It could still be like a 3 to 1 star, like level of like need, like low, high, medium,
absolutely, but
and then optional comments, like if it needs to be brought up at the next meeting. Or
that's exactly what I just said, so that we don't have to wait to January to turn around to something that we could probably knock out, pretty quickly. But we have to, if it's on this sheet and it's everybody's available to review it and score it, I was like, oh, this is on the agenda for next month, and then it's a question of filling out the rest of the stuff like you said. And if it comes down to something that's going to be like, well, this one waits till we meet in January.
And I would probably recommend a January and July for your meetings, just so those will line up with the mid-year budget adjustments. That makes it easy for us to go to council if we have an additional ask.
Perfect.
Thank you. In terms of an example, I just keep thinking of Liz's proposal when you asked for some money for some art classes that were being done at the community center. So it could be something simple like that, that doesn't need to go into our budget, but comes out of, don't we have a little, Brian? Yeah.
Brian, will you remind us what that discretionary fund?
Yeah, you have a
Max is-
miscellaneous line for $10,000.
Thank you.
You used some of that already this year. 1,000, I believe.
And as soon as something comes in, we need to get notified, so the minute that project submission comes in, like, okay, here's a project submission, now I can read that whole form that they've filled out. And my next step, me personally as a commissioner, is to go through that grading thing, and then that gets submitted, and if we get back and somebody says, hey, I want to bring this, we can agree to bring it up to the next meeting, we can put it on the agenda to approve.
Yep.
So a quick question with that, what would you say is it a reasonable amount of time to expect the commissioners to be able to complete it once it's sent? So we can have a deadline 1 week, 2 weeks? Because if one comes in 1 week, 2 weeks before the next meeting, I do feel it would be important that we always have the same amount of time. Oh, hurry, this one needs to be done tomorrow. Oh, this one you have a month. I'd say we get it, we send it to you, you have X amount of days to return it, and if that X amount falls after that coming commission meeting, it can wait to the next. But what is a reasonable amount of time that we should try that, being a 1 week or a 2 week for
1
you
week
to review
turnaround.
and to score?
I'm in favor of 1 week.
Okay?
Me as
3
well.
hours and 17 minutes.
Are those one business day, 7 business days, or one calendar
With-
week?
With the understanding that these submissions now, it's not like approval of the minutes, and everybody starts, reading the minutes because they never read the minutes. Now it forces,
I read
we've got.
all the minutes, Kim.
Kim, there was, one of these things had a double space in between and we don't need to do that anymore. A single space will work. Hit the space bar once.
So,
But-
and do we want to set a standard of we wait until all commission has graded to move it forward, or just
The
majority?
deadline, yeah.
Or-
Well,
or
we'd
whatever
have
done
a
by
week
the deadline.
deadline. We have a week's deadline to take or to score it on this, survey it. And then when that closes, then if it was to come to the next meeting, as long as it's quorumed, it goes to the agenda, or the majority.
If we get a quorum, that'd be a good one. If we get a
The
quorum, majority, to bring this as an agenda item for the next meeting, it gets on the agenda.
I like it.
Or do we need to time it with our meetings? Meaning as a deadline, that everything that we need to review and make a decision whether it goes to the budget meeting or to our regular meeting has to be done so that everything, if that goes to the regular meeting, can be prepared in time. That it follows our schedule that way instead, as a deadline.
It would organically go there bi-weekly if it was going to be pushed to the agenda item. But every week, we have a deadline when the agendas have to be posted. So those that have been
So
seen
something that came
reported-
in this week, if it came in on Saturday or Sunday, it's not going to make it to this agenda. But
It's the agenda deadlines.
but it'll make it on the next one. If we say, hey, let's bring this to the commission, we're not going to wait for 6 months.
Yeah, backing into it would be the deadline of the agenda being publicly posted.
And a week before that.
Right.
So yeah, technically you could look at that and set a monthly deadline to get it reviewed by that time, but I think, I don't know if we need to list a bunch of deadlines for people to apply it. We just tell them it'll make it on to, the next available agenda. We'll get there.
We'll get
And then
there.
that brings up the conversation that we've had previously of giving these applicants an opportunity to come to commission. So at what point would it be appropriate to have them come? Is that once it's graded and moves forward to review with the whole commission, they would be invited to that commission meeting?
That
correct?
makes sense, Liz.
For proposals that you deem you want to wait as far as the annual process, do you want those still included in your agenda packet? Or not worry about it, bring those forward?
Or it could be like a report of, here are the proposals that came in and that were, are now in the pile of waiting for our next budget meeting.
Of course, that probably makes it harder. Is that worth another line going on the criteria sheet? One, it's like, we want it on the agenda to approve. Another one, we want to talk to these people. So why don't you, we're going to put you on the agenda so that you can, and work it out. So if, I'll just use Bruiser again. We like the idea of Bruiser. And what you've submitted is good, but we should talk about this and hear from you specifically so that we can get a better idea of it, so that we can put it on, like, yeah, you'll probably hear from us, this is going to be on our 6-month calendar. Does that make sense?
Kinda. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So back to Liz and Brian's comments too. I'm looking at our forms. I like the idea of a report on what items we've scored that are going to be tabled to those workshop sessions in January and July. But maybe it could be attached to those that have submitted their ideas of, by the way, the next step for your idea is going to be on the agenda at next month's meeting. If you'd like to attend, please do. Because if it's an item that's selected for more discussion in January and July, it's going to get a commissioner assigned to it. And those follow-up conversations, JR, where we want to get more information from them, could be gathered then.
Or would it be beneficial, regardless of how you score them, to have them come and present their idea? Do you want to score after they've presented? I want to make sure that we are responsive to people that do submit these forms and let them know, hey, we've received it, here's the process going forward. But I also want to make sure that they feel that their idea and proposal has been given full vision. And that's not always captured in kind of what this form is, right? So I think there's probably a lot of information that you're going to miss out on if they don't have a chance to come and just, hey, here's the idea. And then maybe you can then do the grading and decide, okay, we do want to take action at the next meeting on this, or we want to, this will be something that we'll need a budget for, and we'll do it as part of our annual process. An idea.
That's what I'm trying to
Or
say.
could we also add to that proposal form for the community a checkbox that they would like to present to the council or the commission?
Because that could actually go back, hey, we got it. In fact, if you'd like to present, you're invited to the council, and we have, here's a slot for you to come speak, to expand on this.
So we could add that to the proposal form, and then staff would contact them and let them know, you're going to be on this next agenda, please come at this time, submit to, and how they would submit that.
And I'll just,
presentation or anything like that.
why that would be valuable, and I'll just use the idea of using the oak. It's an idea that doesn't have any, we want to use it, but I don't know what to use it for. And we don't know what to use it for, but the fact that it's been out here in TV land and there's public, somebody else might see that, and that might be, well, hey, I'd be interested in helping out with that. And so it's just making the project a little bit more successful.
Yes, actually, JR, again, back to that webinar I was at, the Department of Commerce for the Washington State. That was one of the things that they talked about, is that greater visibility in the community about what other people are doing was something that was important to them.
And that also helps, it gets back to the point that Valerie brought up about, hey, this is just art commissioners doing their, the good old boy club, just knocking things out that they feel like doing. No. That would be involving letting the community know that they're being involved, and we want to hear from them. Community, we want to hear from you. Where are we at?
I think we have a pretty good idea of what you guys want and
Yeah,
want set
okay.
up. I think we can implement that. I just want clarification on one thing with the timing. For those presenting, do you want to fill these out before or after that they come to present to you?
After.
Okay. All right.
I would rather have it before so that I can prepare, so I know the base of the information, and then they add to that, and then I can have my questions.
We will definitely submit or forward the form that they filled out to you before the meetings, yes, yeah.
Anybody can come to our meetings and go to the podium and make a public comment without even submitting a form.
Correct.
But you get like 3 minutes. So,
But
you still
still.
can, yep, absolutely.
But if someone were to do that, we would just invite them to fill out the form.
Exactly.
Can I say something?
No, yeah.
Thank you for that discussion. It was like, I'm sorry we have to spend so much time on figuring out what we're doing, but I appreciate you guys, what you do for us
Well,
and all of us. I mean, it's.
I was glad that you put it on there because I knew that this was going to drive us into this discussion, so thanks for doing that. Should we move on to B? Art plan, policy inclusion in the city comp plan discussion?
Yeah, so we are updating the city's comp plan. In the last comp plan update. Let's see if this is going on. No? Maybe not. Let me share my screen here. There we go. We. What's that?
These screens aren't on, so there's no way we're going to see what you're showing.
You know, I'll just read it to you guys, but really, so we've completed an art plan since the last comprehensive plan update. So we have included those policies from the art plan into the comprehensive plan. So I'm just going to review that with you. So just to give you an idea of what this is, so here's the comp plan full policy database. It covers quite a few areas, infrastructure, neighborhood, community, multimodal transportation, land use, urban design, environment, economy, boundary planning, growth, obviously a lot of development, water, historical and cultural resources, things like that. The Parks and Recreation Department have a few that are very specific to it, dealing with trails and open space, development, activities. The marina is part of that as well. Green spaces, historic and cultural resources, recreation, facilities, design, environment, several different things. So art did have a little bit of a space in there in the last comp plan, but now we have quite a bit of policy to be included into that. So I'm just going to share with you, and you're probably already familiar with all these if you've read through the art plan of what's being included in the comp plan. So this informs decision makers within the city on what we want to follow, the vision of the city, right? 30 years out, where do we want to be? What are the policies we want to follow to get from point A to point B? So as it relates to arts, the included policy are just generally policies from the arts plan. Follow best practices set out in the arts plan for arts commissions, projects, project selection criteria, artist commissioning, and other processes. Under urban design, improving urban design considerations that define the city's character. Developing an aesthetically pleasing public realm that promotes street life, opportunities for community interactions, and commercial and social activities. Enhancing pedestrian experience and improving connections and access to the waterfront. And you'll see in here we have reference to the art plan page that comes from. If there's an existing policy, urban design goal number 4, things like that it connects with. Under visibility and identity, enhancing the entryways to Oak Harbor and promoting an aesthetically pleasing first impression of Oak Harbor, which will promote tourism. Direct people to historic downtown and the waterfront from Route 20, using art treatment as wayfinding. Making good use of the new website, interactive public art map. Hold a major event as a regional attractor and community celebration. Under the subheading of connectivity, make better connections between historic downtown and the waterfront with actions such as art treatment on Dock Street and the city parking lot on Dock Street, the transit center, and to Flintstone Park. Strengthen connections between historic downtown and Skagit Valley College, Catalina Park, and the marina, using art to make the walk more interesting and testing ideas with temporary art prior to long-term pedestrian treatments. Under cooperation and coordination, convene arts and culture leaders to coordinate schedules and efforts, partner with Oak Harbor's arts organizations, community groups, military organizations, and schools to support art-related efforts that further city goals. Under new venues, participate in discussion with organizations exploring building new venues and support those efforts in ways that are appropriate for the city as a partner. Consider the use of publicly owned properties for use as cultural spaces, specifically the Interpretive Center at the water treatment plant. Under arts and neighborhoods, use art to bring attention to water quality with storm drains throughout the city. Establish and maintain diverse recreation programs that serve residents of all ages. These programs shall support physical, social, and educational enrichment, be responsive to community needs, and regularly evaluate and ensure accessibility and inclusivity. Create an Art Sparks program to fund community-led arts activities and projects in neighborhood parks. Under investment in arts and culture, increase the Creative Art Fund's share of utility tax revenues. Consider establishing a creative district in the historic downtown to unlock state funding opportunities. Identify opportunities to pursue both city and county lodging tax competitive funding for tourism-driving arts and cultural activities. Support capacity building for local arts organizations. Consider partnering with 501c3 organizations to capture state and national funding opportunities. So those are the main policy themes that we have included within the city's comprehensive plan. CAC is working on finalizing those, and that update will go to council for adoption. Any discussion or comments?
I just want to say congratulations, because that's what this whole plan was driven by, was for staff to get to council, to get to mayor, to become part of the comprehensive plan, because it is a reflection on the seriousness and the benefits of having art taken seriously in our community. Thank you very, very much. I'm so thrilled with that. Thanks.
And that was a comment from council with the arts plan is, they didn't just want a plan that would sit on the shelf. They really wanted to see it implemented. How do we incorporate it into long-term planning within the city and placemaking? I had a meeting with one of the new planning commissioners yesterday, and we talked a little bit about this and integrating and cross collaboration between the planning commission and the arts commission. So these are all making great connectivity strides and good synergy for us to get some of these things done.
Onward. Item C is navigation of the website landing page discussion. It's almost like our subcommittee. Tracy, you want to take that one?
Okay, ask that one more time. Navigation.
I'd be happy to just give an update of where,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
'cause
good, yeah,
I-
okay.
I
that'll-
don't think
There we
that
go, because
we've-
now we can
We've
even
not
look at
had
it.
another meeting since.
discuss. Okay, so I would just like to show you where we're at with the updates for accessibility for the arts page. Carrie has done a lot of awesome work, and then Maggie and I met, we walked through some things. We have still some to-dos on our list, but I'll kind of walk you through from the notes that we got from you last time, what we've implemented, what we're still working on doing, and then if there's any additional feedback at this time. So this is the main page. A pending change that we're still waiting for that just required a little more back-end doing than we could at the time, but Maggie is working on is the round button at the bottom of the main website, Parks and Recreation. We are going to add the word arts to that as well, Parks, Recreation, and Arts. So that way if someone's looking, they'll see that arts is part of the Parks and Recreation page. This drives you to the Parks and Recreation page, which on the left-hand side here, you'll see arts, and this takes you to the main art page. We'll go into this page a little bit more in a moment, but I wanted to show you if somebody is starting on the Arts Commission page, as per your suggestions, we did put the learn more about the arts in Oak Harbor here, which links you to the art page. So you're at the Arts Commission page. It got cleaned up. The items that were no longer relevant, thank you, Tracy, those have been removed and cleaned up. This now links to the arts page, and again, from the arts page, you can link back to the Arts Commission page if you would like to go back there. So it's a nice little back and forth game there. Also, to make it a little easier to find the art project proposal form, of course, it is right here on the arts page. We have the arts plan, the art map and inventory. I'll come back to that in a moment. Art project proposal form and Arts Commission. One more tab that we're still working on developing the page for would be like a arts projects. So this is the projects that you're currently working on, kind of update of where they are at. The city has its own kind of project page that kind of shows those things, and so we'll do a similar one for the arts. And shows the projects that you guys are currently working on, so that'll be added as a button right there. But to make it easier to find, or another point of contact to find the art project proposal, we've also added it under the how do I submit art project proposal. And so you can click there and it takes you to the arts page, see the art project proposal form, click it and it'll take you there. We also cleaned up some more of the old stuff. We appreciate everyone finding things that need to be changed. Cynthia sent some as well that had still references to using the hashtag OHArtIs for the art plan. So we removed that old image and I just added here on the main arts page, share your favorite art spots in Oak Harbor on Facebook, use the hashtag, and how to do that right there. And then the thing that we're also still working on, and maybe you guys might have a piece of information in the puzzle, this art map and inventory does need some updates to it. It's a website outside of the city website, is this ArcGIS website. So I'm working on now identifying who has access to this or who has created. Cynthia, it looks like you might know.
Well, and it was part of our process. This is the page that Bobo from Frameworks created during the planning process. But Maggie, I believe, was working with Bobo to get all of that website page to the city's website,
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
backside of the city's.
Perfect, because I know that we had addressed the Oak Harbor OH Art Plan website, but maybe didn't realize that this too was in existence and we need to migrate this over. So we'll work on the back end, whether that's working with Framework to say, hey, how do we get access to this, or build a new one somewhere. So that is helpful. Thank you. So we currently don't have access to make the changes on this, but now we know where to go to get that access, because there are some updates, like the octopus mural, the building is gone, so we'll remove that. And I know you had one other thing in the email too, so We'll check
And
those.
I'm just going to say it publicly for those who haven't commented to me directly. There's an inventory of Tim Haslett's work, and it's mistitled. It should be Mailer, not, I think it's May something, but
That's the other
we
one
know
on
that
this.
that correction has to take place.
It is, that was the
Yeah.
other one on the list. Perfect. So those are the updates that have been made. You have the beautiful bar at the bottom of the Oak Harbor the art page for submitting an art proposal is again accessible right here. Direct link to the Art Commission information, to the art plan itself, and to the inventory list. So it's again, just another area that people can see them, either here on the side or down at the bottom to draw them to there.
And you could do it on the phone because I just did.
Oh,
It's
thank
the same
you.
thing. You can
Mobile
scroll
test.
down here and it is.
Perfect.
If you wanted to do an art project proposal right now, you can find it on it. And all I typed in was Oak Harbor Art Plan,
Good.
and it took me to this page, so that somebody doesn't have Art Plan Oak Harbor. And it
Perfect.
takes you to my page.
Perfect, and we would be happy to include a little blurb about the proposal form being live and what it's used for in our next activity guide. We can also do a Facebook post with a link to it as well to help share the information now that it's there and it's easier to find and navigate on the website.
Thank you, Liz.
Yes, are there any other edits that you're seeing now that were proposed and weren't implemented, or anything else that would help find it?
That looks pretty complete from
No,
the
we gotta go to an
conversation with
expert.
Carrie.
No, I
And-
was just gonna
yeah.
say I have to excuse myself. I have to go to practice. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'll be back next month. Thank you for having me.
It's a long practice. All right,
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for all the work.
everyone just stare at her as she leaves.
Yeah, Liz, that's a beautiful, the website looks completely different, like, deserve a round of applause for that.
And
Well-
again,
Yes.
a big thanks
To
to Maggie
Carrie,
and Carrie.
and Maggie
Yeah, I was
and
going
Carrie
to
for
say,
that,
Maggie
yeah.
and Carrie.
All
yeah.
hands that were involved.
And when we met with Carrie to talk, we just said, let's let this simmer a little bit before let's just figure out, before we make a course correction, we're headed in the right direction. Let's see how this goes for a little bit. Move on to subcommittees and crossover discussion. I think this one pertains to what I mentioned, because when Tracy and I met with Carrie and we were talking about the webpage, she's on the Parks and Rec Commission, so we were just kind of like doing like cup of coffee, talking about stuff that that might cross over to each one of us. And that's where the idea, I thought, of doing that at a subcommittee level, if it was, and I know I saw, Brian, you can jump in on this soon. Would it be possible to form a subcommittee that would rotate? Like, you would go to this subcommittee meeting representing the Art Commission, and somebody from the Parks, somebody else from Parks could go and just have a cup of coffee and find out what things cross over, where our common interests are, what's going on. And then it would be a subcommittee coming back to report, like, to us. So, that being said, I threw that idea out to Brian, like, Brian, what do you think of that?
Yeah, and another suggestion, it might have been Cynthia, also said maybe on an as-needed basis. You're talking specifically about the Parks and Rec Commission, but like I said, I did meet with one of the members of the Planning Commission that are
Now I'm doing emails with you guys.
very interested in placemaking, and they'd like to see how they can be involved with the Arts Commission with planning around that, and around the comp plan and synergy with the art plan and things like that. So I think this is a little broader of a discussion and maybe consideration than just a check-in one-on-one with the Parks and Rec Commission. I think maybe it's more of how do we have good alignment between the various commissions where we have crossover. And when there is need to do some joint planning, what does that look like? I also want to be sensitive to, you guys are volunteers, we don't pay you to be here, other than, enjoying our just charming company, but we want to be sensitive to the time you take, especially now that we're giving you homework assignments every month with grading. We've turned you all into teachers doing grading assignments. We want to be sensitive to how much time you're taking outside of your official commission roles and duties. So just considerations for your discussion.
Because I just looked at it, because in the past, we've talked about, hey, let's go to the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. And that's another meeting. And you sit through, like, heck, we didn't even want to sit through our own meeting. But, just so that you could do it at a subcommittee level, a little more informal, and it might be over a cup of coffee and we're done. And would that be possible? And if you're talking about planning, it could be another one. It's like take advantage of everyone's time and ease the burden on some of the things that you have to do, because we would already be armed with some of that stuff to bring as a report. So,
Brian, I'm going to ask a stupid question. What does the Planning Commission, what is their directive?
I'll give you a stupid answer in return. So the Planning Commission reviews development plans mostly, and they work with our Development Services Department. If you go onto the city code, it lists all the powers and duties of each of the commissions, so you can kind of get a better idea of what they are specifically tasked with. They are a much more involved commission than most others, though. They are kind of right there under city council as far as authority, and they make quite a few decisions around zoning and those kind of things.
Thanks.
I'm happy to come back and actually have one of the planning commissioners come and present a little bit about what they do if you'd like to know more. I'm sure they would be absolutely thrilled to do that.
My thought about this is I think this team of good do-gooders is always a step ahead of everything else that's going on, because we're so anxious and excited about getting things moving. But I trust Brian and your staff to always report what we're doing in these other situations. But collectively, I would see in the future, especially with waterfront development and downtown development, that at one point in time, that collective team might be established at a different point with the Planning Commission, now that this is part of the comprehensive plan as well. But that doesn't mean you can't have a cup of coffee with Carrie.
okay, that was crossover discussion.
Okay.
Subcommittee updates, 5E.
I think the only subcommittee we have right now is visibility with Carla and I and Maggie. We're still waiting to get the summary from our workshop with Maggie delivered to us, and to set the next date on all of those items that are listed in the minutes we just approved that we talked about. So nothing else has happened. We're kind of waiting for Maggie to say, hey, can we meet? So that's that update. I think February was our goal, so.
That's it, because that's the only subcommittee we've got, right? What, ours? We've reported on ours for the, yeah. All right, so that moves us on to Parks and Rec update.
Yeah. So that cross collaboration with other commissions is a great segue into areas. And I'll kick it over to Brandon to cover some of those things. So we have a few art projects we're doing, and then also projects related to that.
Yeah. So I actually got pulled into a meeting about Pioneer Way and doing a tree expansion, I guess, down there. And they're talking about potentially doing a road diet, which means bringing in the road, expanding parking, and they wanted to do some trees to beautify the entrance down there. And after I thought about that, I thought that might be a good idea to introduce some art pieces. And that would be a way to connect down from Beeksma. We have a plan to do the Gate of Inspiration down at Front Marsh. And we've got Beeksma Gateway there. The specific area is between SR20 and City Beach that they're looking to target with the trees and the road diet. So I thought that might be an opportunity to just expand our art walk. If we could put some art down there that would connect Beeksma to Pioneer, where we already have art, and that would really kind of encompass the art walk that would start it out. And we're planning on getting the Gate of Inspiration down at Front Marsh. We'd spoken about maybe doing an art walk there, connecting it to the Scenic Heights Trail. So if we would put some art pieces down between City Beach and SR20, that kind of, I thought it might encompass everything that we were kind of looking to do with the, at least part of the art plan. So I wanted to bring that to you guys and have you guys discuss.
When you say I was pulled into and who else was at the table with you?
It was such a preliminary meeting. So I was with Steve Schuler, is the Public Works Director, myself, and Bob Bailey, the City Arborist. So he had a meeting, I believe he had a preliminary or maybe a second meeting with the Main Street, and then he wanted to discuss what we thought about installing trees down there.
Would this be a situation where you would go through our art proposal form and ask for, what, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what it's called, where we go out to art, we go out for, call for artists, thank you.
You know, that also another streets project is the 7th Avenue improvements and that walkway, that pathway, I don't know what you call it, there along 7th Street. And we've had a few discussions about that in the proposal for doing like a call for artists to, whether that's, I don't know, some chalk art or something along there, or maybe a more permanent spray chalk or, you know.
When you talk about road diet, is that what you called it?
That's what he called it.
What does
Yes,
that
I
mean?
learned that term. So there's 4 lanes in there. Basically, what they're doing is they're going to make one. It's exactly what they did up at Swantown. So there'll be bike lanes on both sides, pedestrian walkway. This is the plan right now is a temporary. What they would like to do is kind of have a nursery down there. And the plan is to eventually rip up the whole of Pioneer from City Beach to, from SR20 to City Beach. So we would put temporary trees in just something on top of the asphalt, and we would bring in soil on top there, put in a temporary irrigation system so that we didn't have to water every single day. And basically we would put a nursery. It would be kind of instant beautification with the knowledge that the trees that where we were planting the trees would then just be, the containers would be broken up. We have the soil in there, all the heavy machinery's there, and it would just be a rip up the asphalt, pluck the tree in where it was. We discussed having parking stalls, so tree, enough space to park 1 or 2 vehicles in, and then another tree. That's where I thought we could start picking out trees and putting in some art pieces. Doesn't have to be, we could do, there's no set number. We definitely want to have trees down there to make that more inviting for pedestrians and for parking and everything. But I would like to put some art down there as well. I think it works. There isn't. Yeah, a brief update on the RFPs for the Gate of Inspiration and the Three Totems. I rewrote both of the RFPs the last time that we went out with the Three Totems and did not get anybody. We didn't get a hit, so I rewrote that to try to better clarify what we were trying to do. And I took that opportunity to rewrite the Gate of Inspiration, which we did not send out the first 2 times. This is both now. The RFP for the Three Totems and the Gate of Inspiration is out, and we're waiting to hear back from an RFP or from anybody that's willing to do that. My next steps are going to be to contact, just basically piece it out individually. We're going to have to do it in-house if I can't get somebody to bite on this contract. I'm hoping with putting the Gate and the Three Totems that it's going to be big enough that somebody's going to want to bid on it and that we'll get a hit.
We had budgeted to do one in 2025 and one in 2026, but now we're close enough to the end of the year that I think we're okay doing both.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we were just talking here amongst ourselves. And so maybe Pioneer would be a good spot to put a bunch of flags of all the nationalities of the community, or, flagpoles with instant art and movement.
You have anything else, Liz? That's it.
Silence. So we will go now to member comments. Tracy?
I'm good, thank you.
I just want to say again, thank you for all the work you guys put in for us. It's awesome. And for the community.
Reiterate the thank yous. I think we've come a long way in a year. I mean, I've seen more movement and positive things moving forward this past year than in the last 8. So, awesome.
Valerie?
Thank you, too, and thank you for all the explanations for anything I did not know and needed to be clarified. And also, happy anniversary to the angel statue.
We were scrubbing her yesterday, a year ago.
Therese?
Thank you.
The only thing I'd add is that I'll be going to the Seroptimus at 7:30 in the morning at the Whidbey Presbyterian Church. I don't even think God's up that early, but to talk about the art plan. And I want to thank Maggie she provided me the slides that I could tweak a little bit. And it's something that we should all have in our hip pocket so that you can present this at any time. And then I also talked to Main Street about going to their meeting in November to talk about the art plan, what it is it isn't, and how we can help, et cetera, et cetera. We'll move on to determination of future agenda items. The first one that we can leave on the agenda is the Whidbey Playhouse Lion's Head, because I'm looking over here and four forms have been filled out to bring it to the next agenda. So the rest of us complete that, take a look at the project itself, and we will put that on that's agenda item number 1. Anything else for agenda? Yeah, go.
If anyone's curious about the lion head, it's outside, leaning against the big building that is the Playhouse Annex that's out by the VFW, if you know where the annex is.
And given the fact that it is on the agenda for our next meeting, we could get an invite out to the Playhouse so that they could come here and talk about that. Is anybody else got anything they want to put on the agenda? Like off the top of their head? We're done thinking.
Oh, were we going to determine an actual date for our semi-annual budget review?
January and July meetings.
Oh, during our regular meetings?
Is it going to be during the, or are we going to
I
do
thought
this
they
as
were-
a strategic meeting?
I thought they were a strategic meeting.
So do we have to change the times of them on those dates, Brian? For the January and July suggested workshop/meeting?
Good question.
Yeah, let me check on that. And I'll-
Okay, just, yep, we'll figure that out for the future, because it's going to happen in January, so we'll figure out what we're going to do in January. The other good question that just came out, okay, Brian, here's a couple of these that have been completed by hand. So, should we say, wait a little bit so that we can get this form out there digitally and then redo your homework? Redo our,
So I just created a SurveyMonkey with these categories, and so I'll email it out to you, and it is titled rating sheet for the Palomar Lion's Head, so let's use those. But if you've indicated that you didn't want to grade them until after they present, so maybe wait, but if you wanted to test this, then you can, because if there's something that isn't reporting right.
let's leave it on, and we're going to go for it. Right now, grade it right now. Yeah, right. That's right.
Okay, so then I will send this out. You guys can decide to grade it.
At least so
whenever
that,
you grade it.
because that also involves us looking at the project itself, so that when they come in to present, we're up to speed. We've looked at their proposal, and then we can ask questions and potentially change our grading on it, or, go for discussion. It's the first time, so let's see how it works.
Okay, sounds good. I'll send the link out, and so that you know that link is specific for the Lion's Head proposal, and so each new
And that'll have the
submission would be a new
proposal
link.
itself, so we can look at the proposal
Yes,
also?
would you like the proposal built into the rating sheet, or would you just like it as an attachment so they're open separately? Or do you like it in it and you scroll down, scroll back up, or do you want them separate so that you can do
Put-
like side by sides?
Make them separate.
Okay, so it'll just be a separate PDF. So you'll get a link and an attachment of the proposal, link to complete.
And if, we'll know after we play with it, if, we'll
Yeah, and
talk
this will
about
be
it.
helpful to see how the results come in, so then I can practice tabulating them, see what the report will show, and if I need to readjust how the questions are ranked, the back end kind of thing. So this will be a great practice for that.
Okay.
Hey,
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Quitters. All right, all in favor? See ya.